Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. Well, it's the 8th day of Lent. Or no, it's the 9th day, but I still have the 8th day. Uplift. I fell asleep last night and I was conked out. I had finally gone out. I worked nearly 3 hours pruning. Was it 3 hours or a little less? I pruned down, I cut down and cut up and put into the trash cans. I think it was 4 more tall rose bushes, real tall, and then cut up the already felled ones of 2 more. So what was that? 6 total I did. And I have, I think, 8 to go, or maybe 7. I cut down and chopped up. 6 or 7. Anyway, I'm exhausted. Plus, with the anemia. So this morning, just felt like I was drugged. I just couldn't rouse myself even. Just would keep sleeping, keep conking back. So, and then I think I've got some stomach issue starting, ulcer or something. Or it's something right behind my pump, right underneath my pump in my gut. It's always painful, and it might be from my drinking this soda pop diet or zero to get the caffeine mixed with my protein drink every morning. I don't know, maybe I've irritated my stomach, but so that's constantly hurting and just pain I'm not used to. Worn out. So I'm having a very slow day. I haven't even, I read the scriptures this morning and looked over different news headlines that I realize are in one eye and out the other, so to speak. They don't really settle on my brain. It's a distraction from pain, and when I'm too tired to focus on anything more. And I asked the Lord, what about this? I want to be structured and disciplined. And he's just saying, you're tired, you're old and you're tired. The reality, we live with the temporal reality. And even though we might have the best of intentions, it's hard to stay very focused on something that is more strenuous. So we have to rest and go at the speed we can go and not feel guilty. I recognize even I don't even remember much. I mean, I pray for the world, I pray for different situations, but I recognize I use those articles or headlines just as an escape from pain. And I guess I could take more pain medication, but I'd still be tired from my little bit of effort. I had spent 10 to 11 weeks really bedridden, and not just that, wiped out from that illness. It really took a lot out of me. So it's going to take time to build back up, but I was thrilled that I did 3 hours. I was very dizzy. I would use these loppers, and I would use those to walk with like a cane to get back to the trash can, and then I'd pull these big branches. Oh, some of them were like 8 feet long. These rose bushes had really gone wild last late summer or fall and grew way out of bounds. But the worst of them are down, the longest and the most wild and bushy. The rest will be, I think the rest I'd maybe trimmed back a little last summer. Don't even remember. I think that's a lot of living in the order of the present moment increasingly, and sort of keeping my mind with God and the flow, other than I don't feel good about my distracting myself. this morning, probably an hour's worth of just distracting with an article. Or, well, this article was maybe more worthwhile. I looked up Carlo Acutis, this young man that's being canonized this summer, because Martin had mentioned some prophecy involved, and I did find that that is being hyped up a lot. His mother has mentioned he's appeared to her in dreams, which happens often with people when their loved ones have passed. My parents appeared to me many times and would say things to me. My dad would, or he still speaks to me, advice and different things. And saints have appeared, given me advice. So I don't think that's so unusual, especially with a young man who's died. My cousin died at the same age of cancer, but Protestant. But had he been Catholic, he might have been put up for canonization. Very lovely, very holy young man. He said beautiful things to his mother about Jesus, not to worry, that he would be with Jesus, and sort of prophetic things beyond his age, very rich and deep in spirituality. And Carlo did too. And then Carlo appeared to his mother after he died and told her that she would have more children, because they'd only had him and wanted more. And 4 years to the day, they had twin boy and girl. And they would be 15 years old this next fall. So they're 14 now, these twins. So, and I did realize he died in 2006, similar to Charlene Richard, the little girl who's up for beatification. Her cause didn't go as quickly as Carlo's. And those are, who knows for what reasons. Carlo was in Italy. His parents, I think it was more well known than Charlene. Charlene died back in 1949. No, 58. She was 12. She was born in 47. She died in 1959. A different time period. And so didn't have the social media for people to talk about the many miracles right after she died. And even in the hospital, many, many miracles of people in the hospital being healed by her prayers, her offering, her suffering. So in actuality, she's had more miracles by far than Carlo. But Carlo got more noticed due to internet. He put things on internet about the church, about miracles, about Eucharistic miracles. And so really spread the faith through the internet. And that was more current in 2006. He was, the internet was more new then, but he utilized it for the church, for God. So just a different situation, a different situation. But I haven't found anything regarding any big prophecy coming after he's canonized, and that might happen. But it seemed what is being suggested as being the prophecy for him that would be after his canonization this coming summer has been, from what I read, an encouragement of youth, of young people to be more serious about God and to follow God more. So, but I did read other articles, and it's a little bit of hype, that can go with some of these things. And one of these stories, I'm trying to think what it is. I just read about it this morning. That his body is incorrupt. No, that's been validated. Is not incorrupt. but they did a very beautiful job of fixing his body outwardly. But it had been buried. He was buried, and then it was interred, brought up from the ground, from his coffin, and examined, and it was found to be corrupt, that it's no different than any other body would be. But they did do work on it, on his body, to preserve it. And then he was buried in by Saint Francis of Assisi in the church there in Assisi, where Carlo wanted to be buried. He hoped to be buried there. Later, he loved Saint Francis. He felt a great affinity to Saint Francis. So, and he wasn't canonized right away. It wasn't under 5 years. So I was talking about that I wish they would wait a little longer. So I don't know if they started his process before 5 years, but it will be 19 years since he died that he will be canonized. And I think it's lovely to do that. But I think what God has me on earth, and why I don't get too into the canonizations, is that this is for everyone. And I just don't think we need lots of saints, lots of canonizations. They're very costly. Just the process of them. Scam. It's another scam. That's the bulk of my phone calls. And I don't want to turn it off because they'll just call back and call back. Robocall scams. So it'll stop in a little bit here. And on my phone it says scam call. So, yeah, I think, have I had any legitimate calls this week? I don't think so. I rarely get a phone call, and that's fine. I text to the spiritual friend in the evening, short text. She texts short text. And maybe it's been twice in a week that this other woman texted. Lovely text she sent this last time. And my neighbor will text, do you need anything? Or she hadn't seen me out for a while, so how are you? And that was yesterday morning, but I was already planning to go out and do some yard, get those roses cut down. Some of them, however many started. But no, as far as saints and canonization, I think they're great. It's wonderful. But I'm not caught up in it a lot. I am more caught up in encouraging us all to live well, to try to be in touch with God, to be close to God, and to love one another. And I appreciate the saints. I like the ones that have died and dead a long time and left their writings, hundreds of years ago, hermit saints and non-saints, people who are just great souls who weren't canonized, like Sister Josefa Menendez. And maybe someday they will, but her order didn't have enough money to put up for the process. I think it costs about $600,000 you have to get someone's canonization process going today in our time. So I just don't see the good of spending that kind of money just to get it started. Then for all the money that they pay, for all the employees, the secretaries, the ones who interview, the clergy that are in charge of the process, and can go on for years and years. And in that sense, I like that Carlo was quick. And Mother Teresa was within 5 years. They had it done. And John Paul too. I mean, fine, those are no-brainers in a way, but they're not so sure. Then surface these letters, years and years of correspondence between John Paul II and a woman. She was a psychologist, and they were very, very, very close. So there was question about that relationship, but this was after he was canonized. And then the Vatican put out, to stop, don't for the media, they squelched that. No more talk about that relationship or investigating it, so who knows, maybe they didn't have a sexual relationship, maybe they did, who knows, but it was very, very close, and it was reported some of the letters were very intimate, very of two people who loved each other, and of course that wasn't the image they wanted for a pope, not John Paul II. I don't see anything wrong with people having deep love, and I don't think he acted on it, but if he did, that's really one of the flesh is one of the least of the sins, far worse sins that humans do, like, even just attacking another person for years, putting them down or misrepresenting what they say or what they write, and ridiculing or putting them down or always having to be better, try to be better. I find that worse than sex one time with someone. But I don't know what God thinks, how God views all that. And I doubt he did, but maybe as a very young man, before or seminary, even they went way, way back in their friendship. But I don't know. Who knows? But see, these surfaced then. So they'd already canonized him. So it's a little bit awkward. And so they had to squelch it. Didn't want any more publicity on that. And I don't blame them. I think in part with canonizations, other than like a child, something. But it can get rather invasive. And I just don't see that. I think we have so many saints already. But like Carlo, with the internet and the use of the internet as a media for promoting the faith, it's very, he was a gamer also in his teen years, and that will appeal to many young people. And if that helps them to grow stronger in their faith, to know of a young man who was very devout and loved God and loved giving to the poor, loved St. Francis. But sometimes I think it's that they sort of choose, depending on age groups and countries they're in, to try to promote a certain type of person that they think will help other people grow in faith and in holiness. And I don't know if they've done any studies, if there's any direct correlation. Or if it's already teens who already go to church a lot, who will know about Carlo. But my grandson won't know a thing. Won't matter to him. He's not Catholic. His dad's very anti-Catholic. His mother, I don't think, will say anything. His mother, I don't think, will know. I could say something to him. Here's this young man who's a saint but that won't matter to my grandson if he's canonized or not. My grandson knows holy people. Those are who impress him in his own group, people who he admires. His dad comes off very high moral and critical of if anybody makes a mistake morally, because he prided himself in being a virgin when he was married. But he's got this woman, 11 years younger. Immediately after the divorce or the separation, he went out and found a woman right away. And she's been in the home, stays there and stuff. So they're engaged. They were engaged, maybe 6 months or 7 months after the divorce. And but that, I mean, it's okay. It's what he did. But other people could think, well, is that really moral? There's always, we can always, if especially it's easy if somebody puts other people down because they're so moral. But then, if we look at ourselves, we can see that and say, well, he's got, at the time his son was 16, was that right, having this woman so soon in the home? For someone who's putting down his wife or others for being, putting down public people for being immoral when they were in their 40s, like 40 years ago or 35 years ago, and, saying how horrible they are. So, it's just a crazy world. We all do stuff like that. So I just don't know. I don't know the effect of, but if the prophecy ends up what they say it is, that he will encourage young people to go back to church, and that something will happen that will cause young people to wake up more, then that's great. That's, and it is I think it's a testament to his mom and dad, and to, that they have spoken out about him coming to the mother in dreams and saying things. My aunt, the mother of my cousin Philip, she didn't want to admit or say that it was Philip who warned her to stop. She was going to go through a red light. She didn't see it. Well, I know that the city street that she was driving on, and there's many stoplights in a row, and it was night. And you go along, I think the speed limit's like 40, and because you can go along at a clip. And usually the lights are all, churn at the same time, so you can just move on through. But so she was looking ahead and saw the green, but one had turned red. And she heard this voice call out. And my mother told me right after her sister had told her, my aunt had told my mother, that it was, Mom, stop. But when I asked my aunt years later, she says, oh, no, she says, I just thought I heard something tell me stop. She did not want to, maybe it was because I was Catholic, or she didn't want, and she knew I was a very, very spiritual person, always, but especially more, she didn't want to say to me. But my mother wouldn't have lied back, years before, after it had happened, that my aunt was saved from a bad accident. Would have been T-boned, and somebody else really hurt, too. So, but it was, Mom, stop. And that was my cousin telling her. She stopped. She admitted there was a voice, someone said, but she was then years later to me, wanted to downplay it, that it was, well, just, I just in my head probably. But see, Carlo's parents being Catholic and devout, and the mother credits her son when he was very little with wanting to go to church a lot, like when he was 5 even. And even through a time period that she had gone cold. She had a upset with her dad dying, and she was in a dark place. And it was her little boy who kept insisting he loved going to church, loved going to Mass. And he said the Mass is the highway to heaven. Well, I've said the Mass is the stairway to heaven. See, we say these things, but if someone dies and they're young, and they say that, the mother remembered these things. And so all these things are being used now, and it creates this sense of anticipation. And an article I read in a Filipino article, people in the Philippines, they really, they were convinced he's incorrupt and had all these stories, that making it more. And it wasn't true. So I just like being realistic. The thing I think and what I feel is what God told me back in 1988 when I was getting a wide opening of different personages coming to me and speaking. And Dr. H tape recorded them. And different one each time. One time it was two in one time. And but this time God said, of all these, Dr. H was asking questions and the personage was answering back, St. Luke, John the Baptist another time, Angel, I think John the Apostle, John the Baptist, definitely, I mentioned him. He was the first one that I recognized. And then God the Father. And said to me, this is, and also to Dr. H, this is not just for her. This is for everyone. And someone had left a comment, and I was so tired I couldn't even remember what I'd said in the video, so I re-listened to that this morning. So I guess I wasn't just fluffing off with news. Maybe the news was half hour of distraction. And I did get lots to pray about from it, but and was so far away from my pain. That's anything that get me away from pain. I appreciate. Thank you, Lord. But this person, I think it was the video that I was discussing the ecstasies and the different art, images of ecstasies in art, and the different people and the effect and transfiguration of the heart. And this person had left a comment. I'm ready for this. I want this. Or I want this for me now, and I'm ready for it. How do I know if God wants this? Or something to that effect. And I wrote back after I listened to it and said, that these things, they come when God wills, and they don't come for everyone. It isn't necessary. God chooses. And if he gives you some kind of mystical phenomenon, it's as a surprise. It's like you're not even anticipating it. So it's not the kind of thing that you should really want. But if it's the closeness, I think the person wants that closeness with God. So I wrote, love. Love is the answer to that. If you want to be close to God, love God, love God, love all aspects of God, love communicating with God, love praying with God, love God with you and in you, love others, love others, love others as God loves. Which, I keep getting myself caught that I get grumpy or whatever, rude or judgmental or all that critical or and then I catch myself, well, the Holy Spirit, my angel, and I realize, no, the person just wants love. If I get tired and like the one person who decided she needed to come and I needed to have social life. You've been in long enough. You got, I've told her before I'm a hermit. And she knows what hermit means, but she obviously doesn't agree or doesn't value that, even though she's a Catholic. So I got feisty and nasty in my own thinking about it and disgruntled. And then I realized, no, the person wants love, and I'm to love as God would love. And God let me know She wants a friend, someone besides her family. And she does have other friends elsewhere, other relatives, cousins, and different longtime friends she talks to on the phone. But she just would like to somebody here. And so, I write back in love, acceptance, but still have to be firm. No, it's my vocation that God wants also. So it's not like I'm going to just do what anybody thinks that I need to do. And I can't. It would wear me out too much. I can't do that anyway. Physically, social life, I have plenty of social life with the books I read and the people even the authors of these books. It's an encounter. It's a social encounter with someone's thoughts, their minds, their lives, whether they lived them, 1,600 years ago or now. I even read up about, were the twins a boy and a girl that Carlo had, his siblings. And see, so he is a saint. There's many, many saints that aren't canonized and won't be. And they don't need to be. It's just so much money spent. And then I read in an article that shortly before Francis I was hospitalized 4 weeks ago, a month ago or so. It's close on a month, not quite yet. I guess tomorrow will be a month. That he argued with some of his top people, and they wanted to put out set up a fund for everyone to donate to the Vatican. They were having budget problems. They weren't meeting their budget. They wanted more money to spend. And of course, some of them could have said, well, we'll go back to being parish priests. But they all want their jobs. It's position, power, and prestige. We're all human. So I think that's part of the reason why they have kept him in his position as Pope. Because years ago he had signed a document. Wrote it and signed it, that if he became physically incapacitated, he would retire. And Pope Benedict set a great example of that. See, in the olden days, the popes, we didn't have all this medicine and blood transfusions and IVs and ventilators to use on people and oxygen and stuff to keep them alive, even though they can't function. They're in bed or, I guess now he's eating solid food again, but he's not out of the hospital. They did say that he's having slight improvement, but engraved because he's 88 years old and ill, and he hasn't been able to walk for 3 or 4 years. And he put on so much weight, that his knees gave out. So he's been in a wheelchair and pushed everywhere and helped in and out of bed and dressed and all this, bathed. And so he's a semi-invalid, has been. And see, now, in the olden days, they didn't linger. If they got ill, they died within a couple of weeks, or days even. So there wasn't this issue of having a pope who couldn't really function. Now his mind is okay, evidently, as good as any 88-year-old mind could be, who's very sick and is on oxygen, and needed, I think they gave him like 3 or 4 blood transfusions and IVs, and had to use the ventilator. He's on ventilator for several days and in tough condition. But, see, he won't step down. Well, this one, I guess people online were writing so much, so this one Vatican person made the announcement, this was about a week ago, that yes, he did sign it, but he didn't believe in it. He believes that being a papacy is for life, until the end of his life. Well, why would he write it and sign it if he didn't believe in it, he changed his mind. He doesn't want to give up. Or these people around him know if he resigns, they won't have their top positions anymore. They won't live in the Vatican anymore. They'll be back in a parish maybe, heaven forbid, or doing work, other work, not just helping an elderly man and living in a very prestigious place with servants and things. So getting paid, or I don't know, they probably don't meet, I think they get a stipend or something. Priests do too. Even though their expenses are all paid, they do get a stipend for their personal needs or travel or things. So I wondered, who is it? Are these men? Are these handlers he has? Are they, these monsignors, are they saying don't resign? Stay in, it's for life. That was a very strange comment, or announcement that the one made, though. He announced that just because he signed doesn't mean he never believed in it. He believes papacy's for life. Well, this is the Catholic Church is the largest church in the world, most populous. He hasn't been able to travel. He can't really do much. Decisions. But they went ahead, even without his approval, since he was in the hospital. They went up and set up this fund. Donate to the Vatican. We want more money. Well, people will send. They'll send, I'm sure. But he didn't approve of that. The Pope didn't. That was his argument. He felt no, that they should cut something out. One thing I agree with. Yeah, it sounded good to me. Seems like they're doing okay. Or they have things they could sell stuff like I'm selling stuff. So, I just think differently on stuff, I guess. But as far as getting close to God, and then God will decide if he's going to have some experience for you. But it's always for a reason. It's usually a personal reason. It's not for other people in general, unless you get canonized and then people say, oh, well, she appeared to me in a dream or said this or that, or we remember she said this way back, that the Mass is the stairway to heaven, and, or whatever. It's practically like, well, we need a cause. Here's a cause, or here's a beautiful person, a very good and holy soul, and he used the internet, and this will appeal to young people. So let's canonize him, and then we'll put out this information and then see if people have any miracles to report. And they did. They had some miracles, 2. They needed 2, and they had 2. Some child in another country had pancreas healed, and a little girl in Italy who had a brain injury from an accident, bike accident. I think she was hit on a bike or something, and her head was severely damaged. They had opened her skull because her brain was too tight, and she had a healing that she's all okay now. Her brain's okay. So, it's all fine, and it's good. But what God told me was this is for everyone. The kinds of information that Dr. H was wondering, how was it that God was telling me these things? And how was it that I was having these experiences? It's a good question. I certainly wondered, And God said, well, this is for everyone. It's those who love him, those who... He ultimately said, because she asked for the help, she needs the help, and she wants the help from, and called out to me. And therefore, I'm giving her the help, and I'll give her more. That was the answer. More, he says, I will give her more for the espousal of others. I was to share all this with all others. And my blog maybe wasn't doing well because this other lady kept destroying it viciously, attacking online and putting it down. So my readership dropped. So the Holy Spirit said, try videos. So I'm sharing on videos. And I'm telling you that all of this is for you. Not just for me, not just for Carlo, not just for Francis of Assisi, not just for Charlene, not just for whoever else they have in, money for canonizations spent, or those who aren't, like Sister Josefa Menendez. Her religious order was dying out. They didn't have $600,000 to start her cause. And she might be anyway. I mean, maybe they'll, based on her beautiful writings, The Way of Divine Love, that she will be canonized. Who knows? I don't think she cares if she is or not. But it's for anyone. Holiness is. Love is the answer. Love, desire, asking God, needing His help, wanting His help, loving God, loving others, loving the church, Christ's church, loving the Bible, loving Scripture. Billy Graham's probably in heaven, I would think, and many others, So, but it's fine. I'm just pointing these things out. I'm pointing it out that holiness is for everyone, for you. And the person who says, I want this, I'm ready for this. How do I get this? You ask God, love, need God, need Him desperately with all your heart. I need God just to get through this day. I tell you, I do. God got me through that sickness, and I need God's love. I need to be more. This probably is upsetting what I've said today. Even, and I'm not down at all about they can canonize somebody daily if they want. I wish they would. It shouldn't take all that money though. It worked fine in the olden days when I guess not. Here we are. I was reading about the Dark Age women, and they had to discern whether it was just a made-up person, a legend. Was that person really alive that they were wanting to say was a saint? But I think as long as we discern who's lived what did they call it? Impeccable life, a life beyond reproach, a life of earthly perfection or something near perfection. Those are the ones or those who do a lot for God in this life. Dorothy Day, I would have thought they would canonize her, but she had an abortion before she was Catholic. She wasn't even really into any Christian religion, and she had an abortion. And then she became Catholic, very devout Catholic. But she's not going to they say that she won't ever be. But she started the Houses for Hospitality. She had a tremendous conversion story. Dorothy Day did, from her being not even Christian and becoming Catholic, and her remorse for her abortion. Oh, and she'd also been married. her husband didn't want the child and talked her into the abortion. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have. Most women don't want to have, if they have a husband who loves them and they want to be mothers, most do. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the statistics, really, I should say. In my time period of being young, women would not have wanted to, they would have wanted to keep their baby and have their husband with them. But he didn't, her husband didn't want, or fiance or something, and so he wanted her to get an abortion. And she did. But see, so she'll be not allowed. But I'm not, I don't mean to get this into a thing of a discussion of if canonization's right or wrong or not. It's fine. It's fine. It's historic. It's been for centuries. They used to just, the people knew the person enough, knew them all their lives. Like, was it Margaret of Costella or Cortona, little Margaret, who was left, her parents just left her. The mother didn't want to, but the husband insisted that if she didn't receive a healing, that she was going to be left at this shrine. And so they left her there on the steps. She was blind and mute, I think, or deaf and blind. Not sure about mute, and crippled, hard time walking, could barely walk. And left her there on the steps of this shrine. She didn't receive a healing. The father agreed, we'll go, we'll pray, and if she's healed, great, and if not, we're leaving her there. So, but the townspeople, she became the child of the town and of the church. She stayed at the church a lot, and people brought her food and took care of her and led her around. And when she died, she wasn't very old, maybe 20 or something. They all called out, voce populi. This is a saint. This is a saint. Vote of the people. Voice of the people. We're saying, declaring her a saint. And they bypassed the process. And this was a long time ago. The process was not as involved as it is now, or as costly. It pretty much would go to the Vatican, and the Pope would decide, and people would, present their paperwork or any reasons why this person shouldn't be. They would have to bring their proof to the Pope, and the other people, these are reasons why she should. And it's a much simpler process. But anyway, it's for everyone. Ask God if you want to be close, like those saints in the art images I was showing in that video. It will require you to give up your own life. You in essence, you give your heart to God. You give your love, and then He directs your life. And that's what He wanted of me. Now, He's training me. I wasn't being respectful. I wasn't. It was too much my will, not God's. So doggies need to go out. Anyway, it's love, and it's for everyone. And then tell the world, and tell your friends, live your life so that others will be also brought close to God. And you don't have to be Catholic. You can be any denomination. My cousin Philip, I'm convinced, is a saint in heaven. Beautiful, beautiful young man. Reminds me of Carlo, even in looks. Philip, very handsome, beautiful, beautiful soul. And he's appeared to me 2 to 3 times and helped me and showed me one time something I was doing very, very wrong, very bad, another sin, and saved my aunt, his mother, and said beautiful things to her before he died. Reminded me of what Carlo told his mother. So And it's okay, And Carlo doesn't care if he's a saint or not, but he is a soul up in heaven high. His mother was told, St. Francis appeared to his mother and said that Carlo had a high position in heaven. And I'm sure my cousin somewhere up there for him to come back to me and guide me a couple of times. God was utilizing him to help me, and I'm sure he helps many, many others. So and you all will too. God willing, I will too. But they don't need everyone to be canonized. Think of the cost of that. No wonder they're running out of money. So, and it's a shame they have to charge to start a canonization process. It's a shame they can't make it less costly. I'm practical. I'm here, trying to get my own self in order. But that's the situation with Carlo this summer. And if there's some world event that is part of this prophecy, that's good. If it gets young people's attention, because people are leaving the church, young people are. My grandson wasn't Catholic, but I don't think he's involved with the youth group he was in. He's now goes to church, so his dad takes him when he's with his dad visiting or staying there with his fiance, where she goes. So that's good that he's going to church. I think it's a small Methodist church. So God bless his real presence in us. This isn't the uplift. I'll come back to that. I'm just talking about things that came to mind, and I'm all for saints. Let's all be saints, okay? But I would not ever want money spent like that for me. I don't think it's necessary. We all touch people in our lives on earth, and do our best doing that. I think is good to do that. And then God can do with us as he wills afterwards. That's the big thing. So many people have come to me that I've known, and if they were all canonized, wow, be a huge expense. God bless his real presence in us, and much love to you all.